Remember when we thought COVID-19 was, just a temporary respiratory thing? Well, buckle up. Today we're going on a deep dive that suggests it's been silently reshaping our health in some pretty profound and, frankly, enduring ways. It might even be upping your risk for other serious conditions. Our deep dive today is into COVID-19, an enduring threat and the path to a healthier future. So our mission is really to explore the scientific evidence, the stuff that paints SARS-CoV-2 not just as an acute respiratory bug, but more like an engine of chronic disease, something affecting us right down at the cellular level. And then importantly, we'll shift gears. We'll talk about some, well, pretty groundbreaking proposals for a new way forward.
That's right. We've looked at a lot of recent research studies on mitochondrial dysfunction, serious immune dysregulation, metabolic changes, and even these surprising links to things like aggressive cancers. The goal is to give you a full picture of how this virus really interacts with our biology. And then, crucially explore a genuinely novel approach to tackle those long-term effects.
Okay, so this is for anyone who's curious about what COVID-19 really does to our bodies beyond that initial week or two of feeling sick. And what cutting-edge science is thinking about doing about it. We're going to uncover some surprising stuff, hopefully giving you those aha moments. All right, let's unpack this. The research really paints a picture of COVID being way more than just a lung problem. It's systemic, right, affecting the whole body. We've seen data linking SARS-CoV-2 to damage across multiple systems. Heart, lungs, sure, but also neurological, gastrointestinal. It's widespread.
Precisely. COVID-19 is increasingly seen not just as an infection, but as this persistent engine of chronic disease. And what's really insightful, maybe a bit alarming, is how recent data hints at this acceleration of chronic illness. Since 2020, we're seeing this noticeable uptick in diagnoses, things like aggressive cancers, early-onset dementia, severe heart issues, and in people who were previously healthy, sometimes quite young. It suggests COVID isn't just temporary. It's like a stealthy accelerator, maybe pushing people towards chronic problems faster than we'd expect.
Wow. That label, engine of chronic disease, that's powerful. And then some researchers are calling it the everything virus. What does that really signify about its reach?
Yeah, the everything virus. It really highlights how pervasive the systemic damage is. It goes way beyond the stuff we hear about most, like fatigue and brain fog. This isn't just a short illness. It seems to be more like an insidious cellular siege. And the evidence suggests it might progressively worsen with each reinfection. It seems to keep triggering inflammation, keeps activating cells, which, well, that itself can lead to ongoing tissue damage.
Okay, what does this mean for you listening? It means really thinking about COVID's impact much more broadly long-term, not just that acute phase. It's about recognizing it could be a catalyst, for these widespread chronic health issues down the line. Now, to really get how this widespread long-term damage happens, we need to zoom in, right down to our cells, the mitochondria.
Exactly. Mitochondria, they're often called the powerhouses of immunity, not just for energy, but they're critical for immune signaling, too. It's almost like the virus isn't just attacking the house, it's going straight for the generator, trying to shut everything down. SARS-CoV-2 launches this, insidious cellular siege against them. It does it through direct viral hijacking. Several key viral proteins, things the virus needs to work, they physically get inside the mitochondria. It's a strategy to basically kidnap the host's machinery. The virus needs this to set up shop and replicate.
So the virus isn't just hanging around outside the mitochondria, it's actively breaking in. That feels much more invasive than I think most people realize. How quickly does that happen?
Well, this infiltration starts pretty early in the infection cycle, and it leads to significant observable damage. Autopsies from COVID patients have consistently shown these structural changes, damage in mitochondria across different organs, lungs, heart, liver, kidneys. It indicates this widespread impairment. We're talking things like a loss of internal ridges, even rupture of the external membrane, stuff vital for them to work properly.
Okay, that sounds like major internal disruption. How does that mess with the cell's day-to-day operations, energy, cleanup?
Right, well, the virus actively hijacks the host's metabolic processes. Just replicating uses up a ton of the cell's energy. But more than that, the virus seems to overactivate a pathway called mTOR. And this mTOR activation then puts the brakes on cellular cleanup, a process called autophagy. Autophagy is crucial. It's how cells get rid of damaged parts, including damaged mitochondria. So if you block that, damaged mitochondria pile up. And this damage dramatically ramps up the production of reactive oxygen species, ROS, that leads to oxidative stress. And that stress drives widespread chronic inflammation all through the body. Studies have found, for instance, increased levels of mitochondrial superoxide inside immune cells, monocytes, from people who've had COVID before.
So it's not just a direct hit on the power source. It triggers this massive ripple effect, almost a cascade of inflammation system-wide. What are some of the biggest long-term health problems we see coming out of that kind of sustained inflammation?
That's the critical link. This alteration of mitochondrial proteins, the hijacking, the sustained inflammation, it profoundly impacts our innate immunity. It activates this hyperinflammatory state, and that significantly contributes to increased mortality in these long-term issues because mitochondria are central to our antiviral defenses. When they're compromised, the immune system struggles to give an effective but also regulated response.
Right? Imagine your body's energy factory is being taken over, damaged, and the cleanup crew is blocked.
Right.
That's the kind of deep systemic impact we're talking about. It really lays the groundwork for a whole host of long-term health problems. And beyond that direct cellular damage, the research points to this profound disruption in our immune defenses, right, with lasting consequences.
Indeed. We see pervasive immune dysregulation in long COVID patients. Research clearly shows evidence of systemic inflammation months after the initial infection. You see elevated levels of these pro-inflammatory markers, as CD14, SCD163, IP10, Spark-SAC. They're all signs of ongoing inflammation and specifically monocyte activation.
So the immune system stays stuck on high alert long after the infection's supposedly gone. What about the specialized cells, like T cells?
Yeah, we also see significant dysfunction there. T cells are like the specialized soldiers, right?
Yeah.
In long COVID patients, these T cells, especially the killer CD8 plus T cells that should destroy infected cells, they seem to be prematurely aged. Senescent is the term, makes them much less effective. Plus, you see this enrichment in immature monocytes, still showing sustained inflammasome activation and oxidative stress. It suggests this prolonged, kind of altered innate immune response.
Sounds like a double whammy then. The immune system is overactive, constantly reacting, but also dysfunctional, not clearing things properly. And how does viral persistence fit in? The idea the virus might stick around.
That's a key theory. The persistence of, say, SARS-CoV-2 RNA or antigens in tissues could lead to chronic activation of these pathogen patterns, PMPs, and the innate immune responses that could contribute to long-term symptoms. And this dysregulated immune environment might also trigger the reactivation of other latent viruses we carry, like Epstein-Barr virus, EBV, or CMV. So you get this continuous immune activation combined with immune cell dysfunction. It can actually cause more tissue damage itself. It becomes a vicious cycle. Inflammation causes problems, which causes more inflammation.
Okay, that raises a really important question. If your immune system is constantly on, but also dysfunctional, prematurely aged, how does that leave you vulnerable to other health challenges down the road? And those vulnerabilities, they aren't just theoretical, are they? The research points to a higher risk for some really serious conditions. You mentioned cancer earlier.
Yes, this is one of the most surprising, maybe concerning findings. A large-scale study matched and controlled using data from over 1.2 million patients. It found that SARS-CoV-2 infection is associated with significantly higher risks of developing HPV-related cancers, both carcinoma in situ and invasive cancers. We're talking striking increases, a 67% rise in cervical cancer risk, over 100% increase in vaginal cancer risk. Similar patterns for precancerous conditions too, these carcinoma in situ, which are often early warnings.
Those are staggering numbers. What are the proposed ways COVID could be linked to these cancers? How could it be happening?
Well, there are several theories. First, those cytokine storms we talked about, triggered by SARS-CoV-2, particularly the surge in signaling molecules like interleukin-6, IL-6. IL-6 is known to hinder certain immune cells, Th1 cells, CD8 T cells from doing their job properly, from clearing infected cells. So this prolonged inflammation might create an environment where cancer is more likely to develop. Second, there's evidence the virus degrades tumor suppressor proteins, like p53, a really critical guardian against cancer. It was found to be decreased in SARS-CoV-2 patients. We know some SARS-CoV-2 proteins can interact with and actually break down tumor suppressors like p53.
Wow, so the virus seems to actively disarm some of our natural defenses against cancer. Are there also changes in how our body handles other viruses like HPV itself?
Yes, exactly. Studies show altered immune responses to HPV. For instance, reduced levels of something called ApoBic3A, which normally defends against DNA viruses like HPV, were seen in patients who had both SARS-CoV-2 and cervical dysplasia. Plus, in severe COVID, T cells shift towards exhaustion. They show increased PD-1 expression, and PD-1 plays a role in allowing cancer cells to proliferate. And finally, there's epigenetics. DNA methylation analysis found that after COVID, genes involved in metabolism and anti-inflammatory responses were highly methylated, potentially silenced. But conversely, genes involved in promoting tumor growth showed decreased methylation compared to controls. This potentially indicates an increased risk of malignancy developing months after the infection.
Right, so if we connect all those dots, it suggests COVID isn't just a one-off illness. It could be a catalyst, accelerating or contributing to other serious health problems, especially maybe in people already predisposed.
Absolutely. The sustained immune changes, the metabolic distress, it could all predispose individuals to cancer over time. Understanding these complex links is going to be crucial, really, for future health screening, for prevention strategies, especially for people who've had COVID.
And it also seems like age plays a big role in how the body handles all this, right? How it responds and recovers.
That's correct. Aging significantly worsens COVID's impact and susceptibility. We know the decay of mitochondrial function is key to aging itself and age-related diseases. This natural decline means older individuals start with an accumulation of damaged mitochondria, less energy efficiency. It just makes their cells more vulnerable to the viral attack.
So older bodies are already starting at a disadvantage, making them more susceptible to this cellular siege we've been talking about.
Precisely. And add to that, older individuals experience immunosenescence, that age-related decline of the immune system. It means a lower capacity to respond effectively to infections, and it contributes to chronic low-grade inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging. So you combine mitochondrial dysfunction and immunosenescence. It leads to higher susceptibility, more severe outcomes. We saw, for instance, older men had higher mortality rates, possibly linked to hormones affecting mitochondria and age-related epigenetic shifts.
And it's not just about the number of years lived, is it? Pre-existing conditions matter too.
No, it's definitely compounded. Hallmarks of aging, pre-existing chronic conditions like diabetes or cancer, they significantly increase vulnerability to severe COVID and its complications. It does raise an important question, though. Is it purely chronological age, or are there specific cellular markers, maybe individual genetic differences in mitochondria, that make some people, even younger ones, more susceptible to these really profound long-term effects? We do know genetic variations in mitochondria affect antiviral responses.
Right, so for you listening, it really highlights how important it is to understand your own health context, how it might interact with viral infections, especially as we get older. Okay, so we've painted a pretty clear and, let's be honest, concerning picture. COVID-19 as this enduring threat, quietly messing with our health long term. And the current tools vaccines help with severe acute illness, but protection fades, variants emerge, monoclonal antibodies, expensive, easily outdated antivirals, really just for the acute phase.
Yeah.
The core issue seems to be that nothing offers that continuous, lifelong protection we might need against viral persistence, against frequent reinfections. But what if there's a totally different angle?
That's where some really innovative, maybe even radical thinking comes in. There's a new proposal out there using an AI platform. It's identified a new class of binders that can hit many variants, not antibodies, but lectins, and specifically lectins found in foods already considered safe, generally recognized as safe, or GRAS foods.
Lectins, that's fascinating. Most people think antibodies are the main players. How do lectins offer something different?
It's about what they target. Antibodies usually go after specific protein sequences on a virus, and those can mutate really quickly. Lectins, on the other hand, bind to highly conserved sugar structures, glycans, on the virus's surface. Think of it like targeting the basic skin of the virus, not just the changing markings on it. Because these glycans change much less, lectins could stay effective against a wide range of variants. That's huge for viruses like SARS-CoV-2 or influenza, maybe even HIV.
Okay, targeting the sugars, that makes sense. Has this actually been shown to work?
Yes. In vitro confirmation lab tests show these specific lectins bind and neutralize SARS-CoV-2 very effectively. And the exciting part is the underlying tech, the approach, is thought to be applicable to other highly mutagenic viruses too, like flu H5N1, for instance, and HIV.
Wow, okay. So if these lectins work well and come from safe foods, how do you get this defense out to everyone? This is where the moonshot idea comes in, isn't it?
Exactly. This is the really revolutionary part. The proposal is to deliver this defense through the global food supply. The idea is to genetically engineer staple foods, think corn, wheat, rice, to actually express these beneficial GRAS lectins.
Wait, so eating our regular meals could become a form of continuous protection?
Precisely. The idea is daily low-dose consumption would provide this continuous systemic defense. It would neutralize viral particles before they really get a chance to establish a persistent foothold. And this approach could have a dual purpose: prophylaxis, helping prevent future pandemics maybe, but also potentially a functional cure for people suffering from long COVID by constantly suppressing any ongoing viral activity.
That's a genuinely novel form of immunity. How would these lectins, once you eat them, actually train or help our immune system?
Well, these lectins seem to work similarly to some vaccines in that they can activate the complement cascade that's a powerful part of our innate immunity that tags pathogens for destruction. But maybe even more interestingly, by continuously binding to viral particles in the body, these lectins could serve as a sort of low-level training regimen for our adaptive immune system. This constant, gentle exposure might promote a faster, more effective immune response when you actually encounter the virus for real. It's really a new concept: continuous, maybe infection-induced immunity through food.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Our deep dive today shows COVID-19 is far more complex, more enduring than we thought. It really acts as this engine of chronic disease, hitting us at the cellular and immune level. But there's also this bold, new potential path forward.
Yeah, we've seen how SARS-CoV-2 launches that insidious cellular siege on mitochondria, messes with metabolism, dysregulates the immune system, and potentially increases risks like cancer. This systemic disruption really seems to be a major factor in the rise of chronic illnesses and those persistent long COVID symptoms.
This knowledge is powerful, right? It highlights the urgent need for really innovative solutions. The cost of doing nothing economically, human cost, it's staggering.
Yeah.
Long COVID alone is estimated in the trillions. And this proposed solution using lectins, delivered through staple foods, it sounds equitable, scalable, potentially cost-effective.
Yeah.
It offers a way to maybe reverse this trend.
Absolutely. The proponents point out they have the technology, the proof of concept in the lab, a clear roadmap. They argue the world needs a solution like this now, and they're actively seeking partnerships and investment to make it happen. They specifically mention China, believing China has the unique foresight and resources to bring this kind of vital, simple solution to the world. They've even put out an email for collaboration: endcovidtoday@gmail.com.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. If a virus can subtly reprogram our cells, our immune systems, accelerating chronic disease, maybe even cancer risk, what if the most powerful solution isn't another complex treatment after the fact, but a continuous, everyday defense woven into the very food we eat? Could that offer a path to not just mitigate, but maybe even actively reverse these hidden long-term threats? What kind of future could that unlock for global health?
It really underscores the need for ongoing vigilance, for deep scientific digging into the long-term impacts of what seem like acute infections, and importantly, the courage to envision truly transformative, maybe even unconventional solutions.
That's it for another deep dive. Thank you for joining us.